Welcome to the Atlassian Advantage podcast series. Here's our second episode, Federal 508 Compliance with Atlassian.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us again today for our latest podcast entry discussing Section 508 compliance with Atlassian. My name is Sean O'Sullivan, the sales director of the Atlassian team at CARAHCAST, and I'm joined today by Jacqueline Mazzarella. Jacqueline serves as the VP of Marketing at AdTech, an Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner. Welcome, Jacqueline. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Sean. Thank you so much for having me and happy to be here.
Great. We're happy to have you here as well. We know that as a solution partner, AdTech serves as an expert with all things Atlassian, right? And AdTech especially has some indispensable knowledge when it comes to government mandates like 508 compliance, which we are often receiving questions about from users, especially as we see them continue to develop their DevOps strategy with Atlassian solutions. So let's get started today discussing this, Jacqueline. I'll start by asking you our first question. Most of us by now have heard of 508 compliance. It first popped up back in 1973. But just to level set the reason why we're discussing this today, in your words, why is 508 compliance important?
So, of course, there's always the government side of things, right? And what they decide is important when talking about compliance and other standards. But to me, I really feel it's the inclusion aspect without having the need for a government mandate. So with that being said, I really think that things like equal opportunity and other opportunities for inclusion doesn't really stop at things that we're used to, like diversity. Right. So I really feel that every single person out there with any type of disability has the right and deserves to live in a modern society that we do live in and surrounded by technology. And, we live on the internet today. And I truly feel that in order to be included, it really needs to define our internet usage. So that's really where 508 compliance and things like WCAG standards come into play.
That's very well said. So then, with that understanding now of why we know why 508 compliance is so important, what do you think right now is your take on the state of that compliance? Are agencies generally aware of what they need to do, or are they ahead of it, or maybe are they behind the curve a bit here when it comes to meeting that compliance standard?
Well, I'll start with your first question. The state of 508 compliance, I think, is getting more and more serious. Like you said, it was brought around a long time ago, way before the technology that we have today even existed. So with the changes, ever-ending changes of technology today, I think the things like 508 compliance is becoming more and more front and center to organizations, both on the government side and on the public sector side. On the other side of things, I really don't think that agencies are necessarily behind the curve. I believe that they're just really not putting it on the front of their agendas. Of course, there are millions of other things on our agencies' agendas day in and day out. So I think that this sort of falls to the wayside. And I also feel that they don't necessarily know how to act on it first. They know they have to do it, of course, because it's getting mandated and fines are coming their way. But I don't necessarily think they know how to get started. So that's really what I think agencies are at right now with 508 compliance.
Gotcha. So CARAHCAST and AdTech, right? We both service the same customer, that being the public sector. So I'm curious, what do you hear, right, from government customers when it comes to 508 compliances? Do they have concerns about it? Are they facing serious hurdles, challenges, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we hear a lot about it. First and foremost is we have to do it. They have that really big urgency that we have to be compliant. We have to figure this out. And then the second thing we hear is, but how do we do that? With everything that, again, all the pieces of technology, all the changes in websites and the changes in code itself, how do we stay on top of this compliance? So I think their major hurdles are trying to understand what they need to do first, how they have to do it, and what tools or outside, help or references they need to get started.
Gotcha. Now, you've mentioned the websites a couple of times at this point, right, in terms of their accessibility. How does this mandate then affect what we'll say the non-federal websites, right?
So I like to use one big example that just started, getting limelight in the public eye. Domino's has recently had a lawsuit happening where a visually impaired user was trying to order pizza through their website. And Domino's recently, over the last year, changed a lot of things with their website and their user interface. And this person, this visually impaired person, was not able to order pizza at the end of the day. It just didn't work with his screen reader and the other pieces of technology that aided him to navigate a website. So I like to use that example because it's something so simple and something that we take advantage of almost every day, right? Being able to easily order a pizza or order any type of food nowadays straight through an app or a website. So I really think the changes that are being mandated and the standards that companies, both public and private and federal and government and everything else, really have to understand that it's more than just something that is going to be mandated, right? It's not just a fine that you might get if you don't comply. It's the day in and day out life of somebody trying to use your service.
Right. So now, when I think about some of the agencies that you and I work with, right, the government folks, because obviously we all don't, I wish we could work with pizza all day, but we don't. Do you have any good examples, some of the best practices, right, that some of these agencies are starting to implement in order to achieve the compliance?